Nigeria's crude oil production rose to 1.505 million barrels per day in June 2025, matching the OPEC quota for the second time this year. This is according to OPEC's latest monthly oil market report. The figure confirmed via direct data from Nigerian authorities, marking a 3.58% increase from May's 1.453 million barrels per day and the highest monthly output since January. This achievement follows a prolonged period of underperformance in 2024. Nigeria remains Africa's top crude producer, ahead of Algeria and Congo, as it works to maintain production levels set at 1.5 million barrels per day through 2026 by OPEC's 2023 ministerial agreement. We have Abdulmajeed Amussah, founder at Dears Nigeria, joining us now for the conversation. Great to have you in, Majid.
Hi, good morning, Joanna. It's a pleasure to be here.
Definitely. So what exactly would you say helped Nigeria bounce back and finally meet its OPEC quota again after months of falling short?
Yeah, so really, what industry experts are attributing this positivity to is improved regulatory oversight and leadership at the NMPC and the NUPRC. So the ongoing clampdown on oil theft and pipeline vandalism and the enhanced community engagement, supporting asset security and those kind of body languages, which I had mentioned, the last time I was on your show. This is what is making, the investors feel more comfortable. Pipeline availability as well is contributing to that. So every oil that is now produced actually has a way out. So this is what is encouraging, everyone to keep working, being productive. So we are finally beginning to see the upstream sector recover. And if we stay the course, Nigeria could regain its leadership, in African energy business. So production growth isn't just about numbers. It's a reflection of stability, of trust, and smart policy execution, one after the other. So the real test is going to be sustainability. And if we can maintain this level or push even higher, while preparing, to meet our own domestic needs, then we're on the right track, pretty much.
And, how much can we really, while sustainability is key here, how much can we really trust these production numbers from Nigeria? Do you think OPEC's own checks are enough, or are there also independent figures that are more accurate?
So the interesting thing is that, industry operators have, they call them like the secondary data points. So interestingly, this particular time, their data is actually around 40,000 barrels more than what is coming out of our own authorities. So this really buttresses the point. It signals positivity in the market and more confidence in the direction.
But some will say that these inconsistencies, right, the numbers seem a little inconsistent, like 1.505 million barrels per day here and then 1.547 somewhere else. How big of a deal are these differences in the grand scheme of things? Are they things that we can overlook?
Yeah, so really investment is going into, metering and monitoring and recording so that there's more accuracy. So what you're finding is it's, maybe some kind of distortion in the way data is collected by the various parties. But what you will find is that you still have around a margin that is still, not very unhealthy, but it still gives you an indication of what the production numbers really are. The distortion is there, but I feel like the more investment that is made into, monitoring, tracking, and metering on, on both the secondary and primary data sources, then we'll start to find, a closer comparison with the numbers from any source, pretty much. So it's a problem, but this is what is being solved, and there's a lot of investment going in this direction from the NUPRC.
All right, and hopefully we see those investments yield fruits. And speaking of investments, monetary-wise, policy-wise, we know that 2024 we were struggling when it comes to production to meet our quota, but things are looking up this year. What precisely, do you think that Nigeria actually changed or did differently after struggling for most of 2024? What's working?
really, it's about body language. It's about policy and then follow through. So what you say you do, and then and putting your money where your mouth is. And what we're also seeing here is that you know domestic operators are rebuilding Nigeria's oil sector with local capital, trust, and momentum that international firms usually lacked. Because you're seeing like the exit of some of the majors and the entry of some indigenous players, and this is, to be honest, providing more stability to us because they would be able to kind of provide cheaper source of capital, and be able to kind of manage social nuances much better, which can lead to improved productivity generally. But it is definitely a worry, when you look at what we're benchmarking, our budget against and what we're currently producing. There's still a whole lot of work that has to be done, but there's a lot of positivity. And then if you see, even in the 2024, the Nigeria's oil index led market gains, but sustaining this growth is what we're trying to achieve, this year into 2026. And then if we're consistent with the regulatory outcomes, and if we really, really consider gas-led diversification as well, these are some low-hanging fruits that can get us, to our targets much, much faster, through innovation. And consistency is very, very key to maintain this momentum.
Indeed, consistency, sustainability, those are words we keep hearing, and hopefully we see just that. The government has big plans. They're quite ambitious. They want more than double outputs. We're at 1.5. They're hoping for 3 million barrels a day. And I think they said 2 million by the end of this year. But would you say that's realistic with the current challenges, or you see us building and consolidating on the current momentum?
So really, it's about setting targets that are big, so that you can jump, you can leapfrog, you can become innovative to do more with the less you have. So the targets are good. They're very, very, very ambitious, but they're not impossible. So we just have to aim to meet those targets and get as close as possible to it. So what we're also seeing is the fact that as government is playing their role, in meeting those promises, private sector and communities are also, having to play their own role to as well, support, government's efforts, as well, pretty much.
Yeah, and I was going to come to the communities. We know that with this development, if Nigeria is really going to ramp up production that much, what could this mean for the communities in oil-producing areas and the environment, and what provisions are being put in place for them? Can you hear me? All right, it does look like we have some interruption there with his network, but we know that those communities... All right, Abdulmajeed, are you there?
So the communities will be better off for it, because the PIA is in play, and it has factored them into any sort of gain that will come out of production, pretty much. So the communities will be better off for it. And like I said, there's a lot of local players now in the sector. So it's literally your brother who is becoming more successful. So it's going to trickle down. That is the belief.
Right. So I mean, let's monitor things in that regard. OPEC is also planning to raise overall production soon. How do you think that will play into Nigeria's own plan, and whether it can keep up? We're just managing to meet up with the 1.5 just twice this year. If they increase that again, what are your expectations?
Because we're at a point where we are meeting the quotas, at the moment, and we're also at the point where we're trying to ramp up our production as well. So it just means we have more competition ahead of us, and we need to try to close the gaps that we're having. It's more to look forward to and more to do as well.
All right, so raise the bar. Now, compared to countries like Algeria, Libya, where does Nigeria stand? Are we at an advantage, or are we actually lagging behind in some ways? How, are we keeping up with the competition, basically?
Interestingly, if the countries that kind of had lower production this month were countries like Russia, UAE, and Venezuela, and usually you would expect the highest efficiency coming from people like that. So we improved like countries like I think Libya, or I'm not really sure, but Nigeria and two other countries improved in production this month. So what you're seeing is that we're not doing bad at all in terms of competition. So what I'm trying to say is, if Nigeria, stays the course, we could regain our leadership position in Africa energy business. I mean, the closest one to us in terms of production is around 900,000, and after that is 251,000. So we're way ahead of our peers, but we need to double up and double up to meet our own population and economic demands, which is more important to us. The competition is with ourselves, really. We need to be better than we were last year. We need to be better than we were last month. And we need to keep doing this, back to back now more than ever. Our entire oil sector is in a crossroad, is a positive one. And I think everyone is trying to take advantage of it with the policies in play. So follow what the government is saying, follow the government direction and the body language, and you'll be better off for it in terms of your productivity.
Right. So we know a lot has been done, right, to get us to where we are now. What would you say are two key things that will be instrumental in consolidating the gains and also doubling up, as you put it, right, meeting up with new benchmarks? All right. Hopefully we can continue this conversation, and we do see the needed consolidation and all the investments that will drive further production, right? But it's good news. All in all, we're meeting our quota for the second time this year. 2 million barrels a day is the target for 2025. Hopefully, we're able to ramp up to that point. We do have Abdulmajeed back, and we'll just give you the mic to tie your thoughts together as we wrap up this conversation. Abdulmajeed.
Yeah, I didn't catch your last question, please. Sorry.
Right. I spoke on consolidating the efforts that we have made so far, right? We know that, yes, we are meeting up. Yes, the bar is being raised. And yes, there have been policies and investments to get us there. But if you could pick two key things that will be instrumental in consolidating the gains right now and meeting up with our goals ahead, 2 million barrels by the end of 2025, what two key things would be instrumental in that?
So for me, I would say two things would be. The first one would be that government has to continue to play this leadership role and pull the private sector to meet its targets for its citizens to have a good life. And the second one is trust. We must trust the body language of the government as people, as private sector, and government has to also trust the private sector that there is the capacity, locally for us to meet our demand. So if we're all playing our roles, I believe that we're on the way to a much better, energy regime for the entire country.
All right, things are looking up, optimistic. Thank you so much for that, Abdulmajeed Amussah, founder, Dears Nigeria.